as a young child, I disappeared for 3 nights, or 3 days and 3 nights, from the garden of my home, out through the gate, and nobody could find me. And what happened was, eventually they found me, and they said, "Where have you been? Have you been stuck all this time? We looked everywhere, no one could find you." And I started talking about being away from this world, seeing the world from a starship, and seeing all these amazing, I call them shiny, shiny friends.
So when you start growing up, maybe like a teenage years, did you continue have these encounters?
Yes, I continued with those encounters. They were mainly in the evenings. I had some during the day where I would just catch a glimpse out of, corner of my eye. I would see something, again, shining beings. And then realized that they were trying to get in touch with me. I had some amazing encounters and things that happened. I was up on the roof, and I would see things that would happen in the future. And there was amazing areas of my life that came to pass. It wasn't a very easy childhood, because people thought that I was very strange, and a lot of what I was saying would happen, and they would say, "Well, how on earth did you know? How did you know about this?" And I would say, "Well, the shining ones, the shining beings have shown me through the looking glass or through the mirrors that this was going to happen." So yeah, throughout my life, this has always been the case.
Have they ever taken the ship or not?
Yes, I've only had three times.
Mm-hmm. And with your physical body or with your consciousness?
No, consciousness many times, but the physical body only 3 times. Mm-hmm. And they were all when I used to live. I lived in South Africa for a very long time, and the longest one where time literally stood still, and that was, I was driving home, and I was going up over the ridge. And as I was heading towards the ridge, a huge craft was at the top of the ridge, and I thought I was going to crash. I couldn't stop the car. The car just went to this amazing UFO in a way. And then I didn't remember much until I came back, and that was about 4 hours later. And at the time, I did get into a lot of trouble because I was meant to be at home and I didn't arrive at home. So they thought that something had happened to me, because it was a very long, quiet sort of back road, if you like, that had to go past farms and safari parks and wild animals and things like that. So it did cause a bit of a ruckus at the time.
So when you lost yourself like a child, you was in UK or in Africa?
I was here in the UK. I was at home.
Okay,
here.
And then you moved to South Africa, and
yep.
Yeah, and they're continuing these encounters.
Yes.
Okay, and okay, what do you learn during these contacts? Did they teach you something?
Yes, they do try to teach a lot. When I was young, I was with a lot of children. There were other children, not just me. There was lots of other children, lots of other races of people, and we were in like a school environment, and we were being taught all sorts of things. We were being taught to try to be more comfortable with ourselves, because obviously we were slightly different, and that was quite difficult growing up. And then later on in life, when during the encounter in South Africa, they also then explained to me that they speak to many, many other people on this earth, and that they gave me some names of people to look for. There were some people that they told me about in South Africa that I should look up and go and find, because they are people like me, that I could speak to them honestly and openly, and we could then all work together. And I think that was the most important lesson, was that they do speak to many, many people across the world, and that really we should all be working together against a common goal, which is to raise our vibrations into the next dimension, and that it's all possible amongst ourselves. And I think that was the biggest lessons every time. It's the biggest lessons, that it is the most amazing honor to be able to incarnate on earth. And it is our way to choose what we do with this amazing life that we're given. And I think a lot of people kind of lose sight of that.
So it looks like they choosing with who they would like to contact.
I'm not sure how they choose who they wish to contact. I'm not sure whether it's a DNA structure or whether it's a predisposition to having a psychic ability or a spirituality. I've never been quite clear what the reason is. I always thought it was quite random, but I think as time goes on, you realize that that one within yourself, you need to be able to be comfortable within yourself and your own skin, so that whatever comes to you, to be happy with that and comfortable with whatever they bring to you. But I don't think they necessarily choose specific people. I think it happens if it is destined to happen.
Okay, and what exactly they teaching you? Do you think that you have some kind of mission in this life?
I think that the first part of the question with the teachings, they've taught me how to center. They've taught me how to work with light. They've taught me a lot about how to pick up and understand all the waves and the different dimensions, and how to connect with them, because that is something that's really important, and that's something that I like to share. As far as the other areas go, as a mission, I think that part of the mission is, at this late stage of my life, is to get the message out there as much as I possibly can, because it's important that the Earth's beings, the Terrans, those of us that are here, as well as the star beings that are here, because there are many, many that are here, that we awaken, and that we allow ourselves to move towards the next dimension. And that's part of the mission, is to get as many people awakened and as many people ready as possible.
Yeah, well, I because I'm talking with many people in the world, in our world, yeah. And I see that people is wake up. They start asking questions. They start looking more in the sky, in the night sky, looking for, with desire to see something unusual, to make that connection. So this visitors, are they coming from another planet, another solar systems, or they multidimensional?
I agree with you. I found a lot of people don't look up. I don't know whether you found that. I said to them, look up, because there's so much happening above you, and now with the awakening and the Great Reset, people are looking up, and because they're willing to see, they do actually start seeing. So yes, I agree with you. Certainly, yes, look up. The time is now, and you will be able to start seeing a lot of what's out there, as long as you open your heart and open the light, because light's within you anyway. You will be able to see.
Basically, looking up with your spiritual eyes.
Yes.
Because it's about consciousness, and if you're in the same frequency with them, probably you can see and you can make that contact.
Absolutely. And I believe that is very strongly what is happening. So many groups around the world. And when you look at, CE5, and you look at all of these other areas, it is all happening around us. And it's just a matter of, yes, if you do look with your spiritual eyes, you definitely will see. But not just the night sky. I do find that some people within my groups, particularly that I teach, they're finding them appearing in their own bedrooms or in their homes. So yes, it's definitely, it's beefing up now. It's happening. It's happening
Right.
a lot faster.
Why you in UK you have so many crop circles and not too much in the other part of the world? Do you have an explanation?
I think that we did some looking at that. Actually, we looked at where the Lee lines were, and we looked at the dragon lines. There's some very unusual dragon lines along in the UK, and I think that that's got a lot to do with the lines. Also, I think that the crops are very easy for them to create, but there are opportunities for similar types of crop circles in other parts of the world. It's just, I don't think that it's as seen as obviously as it is in the UK. I do know that there was something similar in South Africa. We saw something similar when I lived in Greece. There was some very unusual activities. And then we realized that there was an ancient site there. So that was obviously why that happened. So I think it's not just in the UK. I think there are other sites, but I don't think they're not that commonly known.
You have a lot of legends, a lot of mythology, a lot of ancient places in UK.
If I go back to your Outlander, there are areas in the UK that if you touch the stones and you touch areas that you will feel a semi-consciousness that comes over you. There are some areas that are not perhaps on the tourist trail, but you can have that sort of experience. So I'm not surprised that somebody made a story and made a film out of it.
Yeah. And so I said that probably in all these science fiction stories or legends or mythology, probably there's some kind of percent real things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more truth in it than what we know.
Yeah, it's very interesting, fascinating. Have you been around the crop circle or in the crop circle?
Yes, I have, and I think that it has a very special energy. And it's many years since I have, but I think that the energy is something that if anyone can experience it, it would be a good thing to do so, because it does change. It does seem to change your own energies and abilities a little bit too, which is great.
Yeah, it is. Do you think that these crop circles is some kind of messages to the humans?
Very definitely. Yes, very definitely. And we're just not listening as usual.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned in our before camera, you mentioned that also you walk in. Can you,
yes.
I mean, if you feel comfortable, can you share what kind being walk in your body?
The walk-in took about between 5 or 6 years to settle down. So there was an agreement that was made with the individual that was in the husk, in other words, the body, before I inhabited it. And she made that decision to walk out for various reasons. And because I have certain areas of this life that I need to assist, if you like, on the mission, I need to make sure that there are certain messages that get across, and I need to be able to show evidences and prove of existence of other races, of other abilities, and particularly of the guardians. The guardians is a very important part of the walk-ins mission. So as part of the energy or the soul energy that came through after stabilizing, which, as I said, took up to about 7 years to stabilize fully, I was then able to transform myself or the body to the type of body that I was most comfortable with. So she had a very different look and a feel and a way about her. She was also very different towards her family, and she had a totally different life, actually. And over that period of time, which took about 10 years to stabilize, I was then able to get to the point where I was more comfortable so that I could get on and do the work that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. That entity is, can you describe like energy being or maybe something like a spirit? How exactly you can describe that?
At the time of walking in, that being was more of an energy being, and had not incarnated or decided to come back. For speed, it was necessary to take on the husk and not go through the whole sort of birth cycle and process again. She was very tall, and she had light eyes, pure white hair, and very light skin. And she was part of the original Cedar races, and was part of the Lyrians at that time. And some of the soul energy goes quite far back, as far as the fractals that I'm able to access show that she's had many different lifetimes. I don't have access or need access to all of them. I can, through my conscious projections, I can go back and have a look if I need to, but I only access the information that I need in this particular lifetime in order to do the work that I have to do.
If I understand correctly, that entity is female.
Yes, she is.
And I believe also they asking for permission to walk in your body.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, after all this experience, encounters with different kind entities, especially with walk-in, did that help you or open something like different abilities, like healing, like remote viewing, or mostly in consciousness level understanding of this life and our connection with star people or multidimensional beings?
That's an excellent question, Ivan. It made those areas a lot easier for me, particularly remote viewing, which in the beginning I was very strong with that and found that very easy. Also, it made the strength of connection to other people very, very strong. I was then able to do, they asked me to do a show for 2,500 people at the Super Bowl, where I would provide evidence of energy beings, and the energy beings would then connect with everybody in the audience, and that everybody in the audience would feel them, perceive them, and be given a transmission or a data download into their consciousness. And I was only going to do that for one night only at the Sun City Super Bowl. And that allowed me to do that, to use all of that energy to create that mission control and to create that message to the 2,500 people that attended that night, which took place. It happened in South Africa, and it was never, ever repeated again, ever. And it was very, very strong. So yes, the remote viewing was there, and I have a direct contact with them, and I channel through Da'a pretty much every day and have done since 1983. So from that point of view, it gives me the opportunity to have that direct access. And if there's things that I need to know, or if I need to know about, world politics, or I need to understand what's happening off-world, either with Mars or with the moon or with reptilians or any of the other races, I can then just go direct contact, go back in and ask whatever questions I need. So I was very blessed in those areas, and because I've managed to hone that experience now and I understand how the connections work, that's exactly what I'm able to do, is connect directly.
When you're doing this channeling or contacting, they decide to contact with you, or you can contact with them anytime?
I don't think I'm ever really alone, actually.
Even now?
He is always within my consciousness, and I'm always able to ask. This morning specifically, I was asking about the situation with the Draco, with the reptilians and Ukraine, and with what needs to happen, and whether there would be a false flag with the survival, with a survival false flag, if that is a possibility. And I had a long conversation with them about what the ramifications would be and what their position is, particularly with the Confederation of Worlds, is whether or not they're going to intervene or whether they're not going to intervene. So yes, they're always around.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about your books.
Yes, what would you like to know?
What was your first book?
What
was your first book?
The first book was Finding Your Cosmic Connection, and that came out in 1990. And that was a book that I started writing about some of my experiences, and I put my UFO sightings and everything that happened. I didn't share about my childhood experiences because I had learned to rather keep quiet about that. Yeah. So, and in fact, you're the first person that I've actually spoken about that in all these years. 63 years later, it's a long time to keep it a secret. But yes, the first one was really a novice book about how you find your cosmic connection, and what exercises you can do for ESP and all those good things.
Mm-hmm. And the book you're going to publish soon, I think.
Yes.
Well, what is about this?
The next book is really concentrating on Da'ar. It's actually about disclosure, and it is all about all of the transmissions that I have received since 1983, all of the sites, what I've seen, what the questions are, because I've always had so many questions for them, so many questions. I'm just like everybody else. I just ask thousands of questions. But what I've done since 1983, I've written all the questions down. So I decided then, I said to them, yes, I'm supposed to write this book, but what am I supposed to write about? And they said, well, you've catalogued everything that you've done since all these years. Just put that in a book. And eventually, if people need to know something, they can read the book, and hopefully the questions that you ask will be the same questions that are in your book. And that's what it's about. It's about transmissions from the off-worlder, from the star seed, from the R, answering these questions over all these years.
Mm-hmm. So what is the message generally, message sent to you from all these different beings? What is the message generally? I asking that question for most of the people who has a contact. And when you gave me your answer, I'll tell you what I heard, what kind of messages other people get.
I think the message I've had over the years has been, you are not alone. You've never been alone. We've always been here. We're always with you. And that's seems to be the constant message.
Yeah, that is your personal message, but did you get a message to the world or something?
The message to the world is to realize your power. Very important. People just give away their power. They don't realize actually the power and the light is within you. You don't have to be a slave all your life. The power resides within you. Start using it. Come back into your power. Bring back your light. And take control of your own lives, because you are you, and nobody knows you better than you, because you have your entire soul, and you share souls with everyone, and you share the light with everyone.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend he was born in Peru. He lives now in Argentina, and he's been in contact with, maybe for more of 20 years, with people, because they look like us, from Alpha Centaurus.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I asked him, what is the message? And he said, love.
Wow. Yes.
Which is have connection with the message you got, your personal message, and also the message for the world. People to looking for how to develop this consciousness, elevate the consciousness to the level they can be, they can have that close frequency to all these visitors from different worlds, dimensions. And when people start opening that mind and have much more understanding who are they and what kind of power they have, they really cannot be any more slaves.
Absolutely. And then that's the big thing. And love is the start of it, because everything else will follow.
Yeah. We are almost to the end of this conversation with you. What do you would like to say to the world now? I mean, that video will be in YouTube, in UFO Disclosure Bulgaria channel in YouTube, and everybody can watch and listening. What will be your message to everybody who is looking for this contacts?
I think my closing message is that you are you, and the most important fragment of your soul is within you. Ignite that and allow yourself to come out and be you, and because of that, you will find then that when you look, you'll be able to look with light, you'll be able to look with your spiritual soul, and then everything that you are looking for and seeking will automatically be there.
It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise.